There's an economic sequence that has destroyed every empire that's ever attempted it. And between 1500 and 1922, the Ottoman Empire followed this sequence step by step, decision by decision, until one of history's longest-lasting empires simply ceased to exist. 623 years of power, three continents under a single throne, 25 million people and then nothing, not conquered by a foreign army, not destroyed by revolution. They committed economic suicide through five predictable stages that historians can map with mathematical precision. Here's what people don't understand. The Ottoman collapse wasn't about losing battles. It wasn't about weak sultans or political intrigue or religious conflict. Those were symptoms. The disease was economic. And the pattern they followed, the exact sequence of decisions that killed them, it wasn't unique to them. It wasn't cultural. It wasn't about Islam or Eastern despotism or any of the explanations you'll find in traditional history books. It was mathematical. The same five stages that destroyed the Spanish Empire in the 1600s. The same five stages that gutted the British Empire after World War I. The same five stages that imploded the Soviet Union in 1991. Let me show you what actually happened. In 1520, under Suleiman the Magnificent, the Ottoman Empire was the wealthiest, most powerful state on earth. They controlled trade routes from Vienna to Mecca, from Budapest to Baghdad. Their currency was accepted across three continents. Their armies were unstoppable. Their capital held more people than any city in Europe. And they believed, like every empire before and since, that their power was permanent, that economics couldn't touch them, that they were different, they were wrong. And here's what should terrify you. The economic decisions that destroyed them weren't unusual. They were predictable. And they've been repeated by empires before and since. Before we walk through how they died, you need to understand how powerful they actually were. 1520. Suleiman the Magnificent sits on the throne in Istanbul, a city of 700,000 people. Larger than Paris, larger than London, larger than any capital in Europe. His empire stretches from the gates of Vienna to the Persian Gulf, from the coast of Algeria to the mountains of the Caucasus, from Budapest to Baghdad. Three continents, 25 million people, all under a single ruler who is both sultan and caliph, both political emperor and religious leader of the Islamic world. The Ottoman military is the most advanced fighting force on earth, 200,000 soldiers. The Janissaries, elite infantry units trained from childhood, equipped with matchlock rifles while European armies still rely on pikes and swords. Artillery corps that can reduce stone fortresses to rubble in days. A navy that controls the Mediterranean, the Black Sea, the Red Sea. When Ottoman armies march, the ground shakes. When their cannons fire, cities surrender. But here's what made them truly powerful. Economics. They control the Silk Road. Every caravan route from Asia to Europe passes through Ottoman territory. Spices from India, silk from China, coffee from Yemen, all of it taxed by Ottoman customs houses. They hold a monopoly on coffee, the drug that's about to transform European culture, and Europe doesn't even know what it is yet. Trade revenue floods into Istanbul from three continents. Their agricultural system works. The Tamar system, land grants to cavalry officers in exchange for military service, creates decentralized tax collection that's efficient and sustainable. Farms produce surplus. Workshops in Istanbul, Bursa, and Damascus manufacture weapons, textiles, ceramics that are exported across the known world. The Ottoman akçe, their silver currency, is accepted from Vienna to Mecca. Merchants trust it. Banks honor it. It's as good as gold. And they believe they're permanent. They believe their system is divinely ordained. They believe economics can't touch them. And then they made the first decision, the one that started the sequence. Stage number 1. Military overextension, 1566. Suleiman dies during a campaign in Hungary, and with him dies the last generation of Ottoman leadership that understood the mathematics of empire. What comes next is 3 centuries of continuous warfare without economic return. Look at what they commit to simultaneously. The long Turkish War with the Habsburgs, 1593 to 1606. 13 years of fighting, massive expenditure, no territorial gain. While that war bleeds the western frontier, they're fighting Persia in the east. 1603 to 1618. 15 years. draining the Eastern treasury for border adjustments that generate no new tax revenue, and they don't stop. War with Poland, war with Venice, war with Austria, war with Russia, everywhere simultaneously. By 1640, military expenses are consuming 60% of the state budget. 60%. And the wars aren't generating plunder anymore. They're not expanding into wealthy territories. They're fighting holding actions, defensive campaigns, wars of attrition that cost more than they return. And then comes 1683, the Siege of Vienna, the catastrophic miscalculation. 100,000 Ottoman soldiers march to take Vienna, to push into the heart of Europe. They fail, the siege breaks, the army retreats, and in the counteroffensive, they lose Hungary. They lose territory they've held for generations. The defeat signals something the entire world can see. The Ottomans can be beaten. Here's what people miss. It's not that they lost battles. It's that they kept fighting everywhere simultaneously. Every campaign cost more than the last. Every war required more soldiers, more weapons, more logistics. And the revenue wasn't growing to match it. They were spending imperial wealth faster than their economy could regenerate it. Military overextension. Stage 1. The decision that makes every subsequent stage inevitable, and they never stopped. They never pulled back. They never asked if they could afford it. They just kept fighting. Which brings us to Stage 2. Stage number 2. Currency debasement. 1584. The silver crisis hits. Spanish galleons are flooding Europe with American silver. Tons of it pouring into the Mediterranean, devaluing every silver-based currency on the continent. The Ottoman akçe, once worth its weight in pure silver, starts losing purchasing power through no fault of Ottoman policy. But here's where they make the fatal decision. Instead of adapting their economy, instead of finding new revenue sources, they debase their own currency to pay their debts. 1584, the akçe is 100% silver. By 1640, they've reduced it to 33%. By 1690, 20%. They're minting coins that are mostly base metal with a silver wash, calling them akçe, and trying to force merchants to accept them at face value. It doesn't work. It never works. Prices explode. Bread that cost 2 akçe in 1580 costs 6 akçe by 1620. The same loaf, 3 times the price, inflation rips through the empire like plague. And here's what makes it catastrophic. The janissaries, the elite soldiers who were supposed to be the backbone of Ottoman military power, they're paid in akçe. Fixed salaries that made them wealthy in 1500 now can't buy basic supplies by 1600. They know they're being paid in worthless metal. And they revolt. 17 times between 1589 and 1651, janissary units march on Istanbul, demanding back pay in real silver, executing officials, sometimes deposing sultans. The government pays them to stop rebelling, which requires minting more debased currency, which causes more inflation, which triggers more revolts. The tax system collapses. Farmers can't pay taxes in currency that loses value between harvest and collection. The Timar system breaks down. Cavalry officers abandon their land grants because the tax revenue they're entitled to is worthless. And the government can't stop. They can't pay their armies, so they debase the currency, which makes their armies revolt, which requires more money, which leads to more debasement. They're trapped in a death spiral of their own creation. Every attempt to solve the problem makes it worse. But they're still an empire. They still control territory. They still have trade routes. Which brings us to Stage 3. Stage number 3, loss of trade monopolies. 1498. Vasco da Gama rounds the Cape of Good Hope and opens a sea route to India. The Ottomans don't know it yet, but that single voyage has just obsoleted their entire economic model. For centuries, they've been the middlemen. Every luxury good flowing from Asia to Europe passes through Ottoman territory. Spices, silk, porcelain, all of it taxed at Ottoman customs houses, marked up by Ottoman merchants, generating revenue that's made the empire wealthy beyond measure. But now European ships can bypass them entirely, sail around Africa, buy directly from Indian producers, cut out the Ottoman markup. And the Europeans don't just do this once. They build companies designed to destroy Ottoman trade dominance. 1600. The British East India Company incorporates. 1602. The Dutch East India Company follows. These aren't just trading ventures. They're state-backed monopolies with private armies, with fleets of armed merchantmen, with the explicit goal of controlling Asian trade routes. and they're faster than caravans. A Dutch ship can sail from Amsterdam to Java and back in less time than it takes an overland caravan to cross from Istanbul to India. They're cheaper. No middlemen, no border taxes, no Ottoman customs fees. By 1650, the spice trade that once flowed through Ottoman ports has dropped 70%. 70%. The revenue that funded Suleiman's armies, that built the mosques and palaces of Istanbul, it's evaporating. Coffee, the Ottoman monopoly that should have made them wealthy for generations, they lose it. By 1650, Europeans are growing coffee in their own colonies. The Caribbean, Brazil, Java. The Silk Road trade collapses. Overland caravans can't compete with European ships that are faster, safer, and cheaper. By 1700, the trade routes that made them the wealthiest empire on Earth are generating less revenue than a single British trading company. The economic foundation is cracking, and they can't stop it. They don't have a navy that can challenge European fleets in open ocean. They don't have colonies to grow their own cash crops. They're watching their wealth drain away to competitors they can't reach. The compounding effect is mathematical. Lost revenue means they can't maintain the military. Can't maintain the military means they lose territory. Lose territory means they lose more trade routes. It's a cascade, and it's accelerating. Which brings us to stage 4. Stage number 4, collapse of manufacturing. 1700. While the Ottomans are still farming with wooden plows, Britain is building factories. While Ottoman workshops are hand-weaving textiles the same way they did in 1400, British mills are producing cloth at 1/10 the cost using machines powered by water, then steam. The Industrial Revolution doesn't just give Europe an advantage, it makes Ottoman manufacturing obsolete overnight. And the Ottomans watch it happen. They see the technology, they understand what it means, and they choose not to compete. Here's the technological gap. Printing press invented in Europe in 1450. The Ottomans ban it until 1727. Nearly 3 centuries without the basic technology of information transfer. Why? Religious authorities fear it will spread heretical texts. So while Europe is mass-producing books, technical manuals, scientific treatises, the Ottomans are still copying manuscripts by hand. Steam engines powering British factories by 1770. Ottoman factories, the ones that still exist, running on human labor and water wheels. By 1800, a British textile mill produces more cloth in a day than an entire Ottoman workshop produces in a month, at a fraction of the cost, with higher quality. The economic reversal is total. By 1830, Ottoman soldiers are wearing British uniforms, carrying British rifles, firing British ammunition. An empire that once armed Europe, that exported weapons to kingdoms across 3 continents, is now buying everything from the countries it used to conquer. The weapons manufacturers of Istanbul have closed. The textile workshops of Bursa can't compete. The ceramic studios of Damascus are producing for local markets only because they can't match European imports on price or quality. The industrial capacity that once made them self-sufficient has vanished. They've become importers of everything they once exported. And here's what makes it irreversible. They're not just behind on technology. They're behind on the education systems that create technological innovation. No universal literacy, no engineering schools, no scientific institutions that can compete with European universities. When Britain is training mechanical engineers by the thousands, the Ottoman Empire is producing religious scholars. The intellectual infrastructure for industrialization doesn't exist. They chose tradition over economics. And by the time they realize the cost of that choice, it's too late. The manufacturing base is gone, which brings us to stage 5. The final trap.